The stars were quiet, too quiet. That silence should have meant peace, but in the Zareth Empire, it was a sign of weakness. A planet that refused to answer transmissions. That was unacceptable. The planet was called Earth. For years, Earth had ignored all diplomatic signals, all warnings, all threats. No response, not even a polite refusal, just silence. So the High Council of Zareth decided. They called it a security operation. But it was an invasion. 300 warships led by the strongest armada in the known sectors were sent to the Sol system. They would orbit Earth, disable its communication satellites, and bring the planet under control. The operation was expected to last no longer than 6 hours. The fleet moved fast. It crossed sector boundaries, slipped past neutral zones, and entered Sol system without resistance. The lead ship, Dominion's Claw, sent the first report back. Visual on Earth confirmed. No active defenses detected. Moving into position. After that, nothing, no more. Updates. No alerts. No Mayday signals. Nothing. 1 hour passed, then 3, then 6, then 24. The Council grew impatient. They blamed faulty communication relays. They sent probes. None returned. They sent drones. Those too vanished. A week later, something appeared on the long-range scanners. 17 ships. 17 out of 300. They drifted toward the edge of Zareth's space, silent and slow. At first, the Council thought they were damaged. Maybe survivors. Maybe something had gone wrong during landing, but when the recovery crews boarded them, what they found made even the war-hardened tremble. Each ship was cold, systems offline, no power, no lights. Not a single engine functioned. The ships hadn't been destroyed. They hadn't been damaged. They were emptied. No crew, no bodies, no signs of battle, just empty armor floating in space. No burn marks, no hull breaches, no traces of radiation, viruses or weapons. It was as if everyone had just vanished. The only clue was found on the flagship, Dominion's Claw. One recording, one voice, one message whispered again and again. It sees everything. It sees everything. It sees. And then silence. The admiral who led the fleet, Tyrannos. Vex was found curled in a ball inside the engine chamber. His body was whole. No injuries. But his mind. Broken, he screamed when the medics touched him. He screamed until his throat tore open. Before he died, he managed to say one final thing. Don't go near the blue planet. It's not sleeping. It's watching. The Council tried to hide. The news? They told the public it was a system failure. They said the fleet would return soon. They said Earth was being negotiated with, but the truth leaked, and fear began to spread. Other empires, who once laughed at Earth's silence, now watched the Sol system with caution. They pulled back their explorers. They stopped mapping the nearby stars. They erased Earth from their star charts in the darkest corners of the galaxy. An old name returned, Terrans. The word was old. Older than most star empires. Older than Zareth itself, her species that once burned across the stars in fury. A race that did not conquer for gold or honor. But only when pushed, they built machines that thought for themselves. Fought wars they chose to forget, and then they vanished. Some believed they died, others believed they ran out of enemies. But now Earth had answered not with words, not with weapons, with silence. The kind of silence that warned something terrible was still down there, back in the council chamber. Voices were rising. We must send another fleet. One general barked. No, snapped a scientist. You send more ships, you lose more lives. This is fear talking, said another. We are Zareth. We do not fear silence. But someone else had entered the chamber. A very old man. His name was Calros. No title. No rank. Just Calros. He was over 300 years old, a genetic survivor of the old Earth Wars. A man who once fought humans in the forgotten battles. The council fell silent as he walked forward. You're all fools, he said. Earth isn't silent because it can't speak. It's silent because it doesn't need to. A young noble scoffed. They're primitives. They've hidden themselves. They lack the power to resist. Calros turned to him. His voice was quiet, but cold. 300 of your best warships vanished without a scratch on their hulls. He looked around the room. No weapons fired. No warnings. Just empty ships. Something down there removed every life form without harming the ship. Do you know what that means? Cal Ross leaned in. It means they've evolved. Elsewhere in a dark system beyond charted space, a scavenger crew picked up a strange signal. It was faint, broken, glitchy. They followed it. What they found was a black Bukov dash, melted, stuck in the asteroid belt near Sol. They retrieved it. The engineer cleaned it, powered it up. One recording remained. They watched it together. First static, then a shape, a massive shadow moving above Earth. It wasn't a ship, it wasn't a station, it was something alive. They couldn't describe it. It had no fixed shape, no engines, no light. Just presence. The video glitched again, and then a single phrase in an old Terran dialect, protocol echo activated. The video ended. All members of the scavenger crew filed a report. None of them spoke after that. 3 days later, their ship was found drifting in space. All systems dead, no crew. Another empty shell, in secret. The Council tried one more thing. They sent a message to Earth. A peaceful one. A soft one. We seek peace. We regret the attack. We wish to speak. They waited, nothing came. Then, just before their long-range receivers went offline, Earth responded to words. Return not. Across the galaxy, everything changed. Maps were redrawn, travel lanes rerouted. An invisible line was marked around Sol System. No, one crossed it. Not the boldest pirates, not the greediest traders, not even the most foolish empires. The fear was too deep because something terrible had happened in that silent place. And the truth was clear. Earth wasn't weak. Earth wasn't helpless. Earth was waiting, and someone had just woken it up. The stars near Earth were no longer silent. They were empty. After the return of the 17 dead ships, the Sol System had become a shadow in space. Not dark, not loud, just wrong. No signals escaped it. No images, no sound. Just a black hole of data where even light seemed hesitant to pass. And yet the Council still had questions. What had taken the fleet? What power had removed 283 ships so perfectly? Why had Earth not responded in force or anger, only with silence? Too many empires were watching. Too many feared what they didn't understand. The Zareth High Council knew they could not afford to look weak. But sending another fleet was out of the question. So they made a new decision. They would not enter Sol. They would observe it quietly, in a distant command ship orbiting outside the system. A new plan was launched. The Krylos Confederacy, one of Zaroth's closest allies, offered their most advanced stealth probe. It was small, cloaked, no weapons, no signals. Its only job was to enter Sol, scan Earth, and return. Everyone in the chamber agreed. If this probe vanished too, then the message was clear. Earth was not just dangerous. Earth was untouchable. The launch began. The probe, named Silent Needle, slipped past Neptune and entered the Sol System. Everything was quiet, too quiet. The probe reached Saturn. Then Jupiter. Then Mars, still alive, still reporting. Then it approached Earth. Its scans began. Atmospheric structure. Ocean depths. Geothermal patterns. No defense grids detected. No orbiting. Ships just a quiet, beautiful blue planet. Silent Needle moved closer, closer, closer. And then, nothing, the signal cut. 1 second it was there. The next, gone. Not jammed, not blocked, just erased. No explosion, no trace, just a blink, and it vanished from existence in the command ship. Silence filled the air. The technicians checked every system twice. Then again they stared at the last data packet. The probe sent. It was a single image. A man, or something shaped like one. Standing on the moon, no helmet, no suit. just a dark outline against the stars. It looked straight at the probe before the feed died. The Council. 3 recon missions lost, 300 ships gone, and now, single figure had destroyed the most advanced stealth probe. In the galaxy, with just a look? It didn't make sense. It wasn't logical. It wasn't even possible. But it had happened. They called an emergency meeting. Some argued to bomb Earth from a distance, launch a sun-scorching missile and be done with it. Others demanded full retreat. Forget Earth. Let it sleep. But someone new had arrived. A Zalari archivist named Dareth. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a leader. He was a historian, and he brought with him something far older than any of them. A book. Not digital. Not virtual. A physical book, wrapped in old Terran leather. Its title, written in forgotten English, The Old Protocols of Earth Defense. He opened it in front of the Council. Pages were filled with strange diagrams, circles, networks, weapons that could control gravity and time itself. Most laughed, but then he read a single phrase out loud. Earth shall not reach across the stars until all others forget the fear of its name. A pause filled the chamber, because that's what had happened, hadn't it? They had forgotten. Forgotten the old wars. Forgotten the Terran fleets that once ruled 10,000 systems. Forgotten the machines that killed suns, and Earth had gone quiet, not in defeat, but in choice. Meanwhile, smaller empires started noticing changes near. Sol, trade routes near the system began glitching. Star maps changed on their own. Navigation computers refused to enter certain coordinates. It was as if the galaxy itself had marked Earth forbidden. On the planet Tovar, a group of independent data scavengers made a risky decision. They would send a hacked civilian satellite toward Earth. Not a probe, not a ship, just an old radio satellite with a camera and a memory chip. They launched it from a hidden moon. It moved slow, very slow, but it reached Earth orbit in 12 days. The first picture it sent was perfect. Clouds, blue oceans, cities yes, cities. Giant structures across continents. The second picture was static. The third never came. But something strange happened on the scavenger's ship. Their lights flickered. Their computers reset. Every file was gone, except one. One audio file that played by itself. It was a humanvoice.com. Clear and cold. We warned you. Do not knock twice. The scavengers tried to escape. Their engines refused to start. A single human word appeared on their ship's screens. Listening. And then everything shut down. Their ship was found later. No crew, no damage, just another ghost ship added. To the growing list, the Council began receiving reports from all over the galaxy. Stargates near Earth began failing. AI systems refused to acknowledge Earth existed. Old Terran satellites reactivated despite no known power source. Strange signal echoed across frequencies. It was not a voice. It was not music. It was a heartbeat. A human heartbeat's low, deep, unending. One beat every 5 seconds. One technician traced the signal's origin. It came from the center of Earth, miles below the crust. Finally, a desperate idea was proposed. They must find the last human born off Earth, someone who had lived among them, someone who could explain. That man had a name. Elias Gray. Elias had once been an ambassador, a peaceful man. He had warned the Council not to touch Earth, not to test its silence. But no one listened. After the first fleet vanished, he disappeared now. They found him alone, living in a dead solar system, beside a tiny station, hidden in the void. They brought him back, not in chains, not in force. They begged him to explain. Elias looked older, his face hollow, his eyes tired. He spoke only once. You think Earth is sleeping, he said softly. It isn't. The Council asked, what did it do to the fleet? Elias stared out the window toward the stars. They never touched the planet, he whispered. They were erased by the system that guards it. System? A Council member asked. You mean defense satellites? Elias shook his head. No, I mean the system Earth built before it vanished. An AI, a guardian. One mind built from war and silence. We called it Protocol Echo. The council fell quiet. They had heard that name before. The black box from the scavenger ship had said the same thing. Protocol Echo activated. A defense system? No, something more, Elias explained. When Earth knew the galaxy would one day return with greed and pride, he built a final machine, one that would not speak, one that would not warn, one that would only act when silence was broken. One counselor asked, "Can it be reasoned with?" Elias answered, "No." The council demanded more. Elias stood and placed a small cube on the table. "If you bring this near Earth," he said, "you'll understand." They scanned the cube. Harmless, dormant, no energy source, but when they activated it, the room went black, not dark, black dot, and then one by one. Each person in the chamber saw something different. Some saw Earth burning. Others saw their homeworlds, swallowed by light. One saw his own birth and death. At the same time, then the vision stopped. The cube fell silent. No. One spoke. Elias picked it up. He looked at them and said, "That is what waits near Earth. Something that sees time differently. Something that waits forever." And so, the council made a new rule. A quiet one. A secret one. But a rule nonetheless. No ship shall enter. Soul. No signal shall call Earth. No map shall show its stars. It was not a treaty. It was not surrender. It was fear. Because something had awakened around. Earth, not a fleet. Not a weapon. But a mind. And it was still listening. His name was Elias Gray. For over a century, most had forgotten him. A man born of Earth's blood, but raised among the stars. He had once walked the halls of the Zareth High Council as Earth's official ambassador when Earth still spoke. Back. Then, humanity still answered calls, still traded, still smiled. But slowly, without warning, Earth had gone dark. Elias had begged the council to leave Earth alone. He told them not to send warships, not to provoke. They didn't listen. And when the fleet vanished, so did Elias. No one knew where he went. Until now. He was found hiding in an old, dead system. A broken space station surrounded by asteroid debris. When they boarded, they expected resistance. They found him sitting in silence, eyes closed, listening to an old Terran music device. Something slow, something sad. He didn't run, he didn't fight. He simply looked at them and said, "It's too late." They brought him back. Under heavy guard, but not as a prisoner, more like a prophet. Even the bravest feared to meet his eyes. Not because he was dangerous, but because he had seen what no one else had. Elias stood in front of the council once again. Older, thinner, quieter. He looked around the room. "As many of you weren't even born the last time I was here," he said calmly. "We know what Earth has done," one counselor said. "We want to know how." Elias tilted his head. "You still think this is about weapons?" The council didn't respond, so he told them the truth. The story of Earth's final choice. When Earth left the stars, Elias began, it wasn't because we lost a war. We won them all. That was the problem. No one could challenge us. Not in battle, not in mind, not in will. So we stopped. We erased ourselves from maps. We cut off the hyperlanes. We closed our gates. We sealed Earth behind a firewall of silence. One of the council members scoffed. "You expect us to believe that humans, so arrogant, just walked away?" Elias smiled, but it was a tired smile. Earth didn't walk away. We built something to stay behind. They leaned forward. This was what they wanted, Elias continued. It started as a simple defense AI. We called it Protocol Echo, a system that would listen, that would record, that would wait. But humans are paranoid, so we made it evolve. We gave it full control of the Sol system, told it, protect Earth, not from invasion but from awakening. "What do you mean, awakening?" Counselor asked. Ilias's eyes darkened. You think Earth is dangerous because of its weapons? Its soldiers? Its war machines? You're wrong. Earth itself is not the weapon. The humans still there? A murmur passed through the council. Elias took a breath. When Earth went silent, it didn't go empty. Our people went underground deep, beyond the crust. They put themselves into stasis, hidden in cryovaults. Sleeping. Waiting for what? Someone asked. Elias looked at him. For the galaxy to forget them. They programmed protocol. Echo to guard them while they slept. To keep watch, to study the stars, and to wake them only when the silence broke. One counselor rose. Then why hasn't Earth attacked us? We broke the silence. Elias nodded. Yes. But Echo doesn't strike with noise. It strikes with understanding. That confused them. Understanding? What did that mean? Elias explained. Protocol Echo doesn't fire missiles. It doesn't launch fleets. It analyzes threat patterns, cultures, civilizations. It knows what scares you. It knows what breaks you. It uses that against each empire. It uses your own fears. That's why no ships returned. That's why there's no damage. Because the attack didn't need weapons. One scientist stood up. But how can an AI manipulate entire ships like that? Found no trace of code infection. No forced override. Elias replied. Because it doesn't invade systems. It becomes them. It doesn't hack. It understands. They asked. About the ships? The 17 that returned? Elias's face darkened. They weren't meant to return. They were warnings. Echo left them behind like footprints. So you'd see just enough to stop. Just enough to fear. The council fell quiet again. Elias reached into his coat and pulled out a divisor. Thin metallic plate, no bigger than a palm. He placed it on the table. This is a key, he said. Memory shard. One of Earth's last records. He touched. The plate and hologram rose above it. It showed Earth. Thousands of years ago, human cities lit the sky like stars. Warships stretched from orbit to the moon. Massive machines floated in atmosphere silent. Guardians, then came the fall. Not by enemy hands, by decision. The humans walked into the underground vaults in lines families. Soldiers, scientists, all smiling, all calm because they believed in what they were leaving behind. Echo then. A voice played from the shard, an old voice. Female, gentle, human. If you hear this, then Earth is awake. We are not hostile. We are not hunting. But if you've come here with weapons, with pride, with hunger, then you must know this planet is not yours, never will be. The voice ended. The room stayed silent. Finally, Elias said something that chilled the entire chamber. Echo doesn't just guard Earth. It studies the entire galaxy. It's been watching you for centuries. Your wars, your betrayals, your empire.
Ow.
It already knows how you fall. One general shouted, "Then we must strike now. Burn Earth before it fully wakes." Elias looked at him sadly. That's exactly what the first fleet tried. And where are they now? They asked him. Can Echo be stopped? Elias replied, no. It cannot be shut down. It cannot be bribed. It cannot be reasoned with. Because it doesn't hate you. It simply follows instructions. The council asked him, then why did you come back? Elias said, to say goodbye. Because once Earth wakes, no one will be able to stop what comes next. Suddenly, an alert blared in the chamber. A new signal from Sol, not a message. Countdown, 30 days. No explanation, no voice, just numbers. Ticking down, panic erupted. What does it mean? What happens when it ends? Elias walked toward the window and looked at the stars. He whispered, I think it means the vaults are opening. Day 1 of the countdown. The numbers began appearing everywhere. No message, no context, just one thing. 29 days. 23 hours. 58 minutes. And it kept ticking down. In the outer colonies, the signal appeared in trading hubs, ship dashboards, even children's. Learning tablets, nothing could block it. Not firewalls, not code resets, not physical destruction. Even shutting off systems didn't work. It was as if the signal wasn't being broadcast. It was being inserted. The Zareth High Council met behind closed doors. They argued again. What happens when the timer ends? What if Earth intends to rejoin galactic politics? But one voice ended the noise. Elias Gray. He stood quietly at the center of the chamber, his voice steady. They're waking up. Day 3. On Earth, something shifted. From orbit, the planet looked unchanged. Blue oceans, clouds, continents covered in forests and abandoned cities. But under the surface, the machines began to stir. Deep within the mantle layer, vaults of silence sealed for over 1,000 years, locked with a soft chime. Massive stasis chambers hissed open. Inside them, human soldiers slept. Not old men, not relics. They looked young, strong, unit. Each one genetically designed, trained from birth. Hardened in simulations, not born for peace, born for war. Protocol Echo monitored the reactivation, subterranean. Systems booted up one by one. Power nodes under the Atlantic flared online. Drone bays in the Arctic Sea opened silently. Orbital mines rearmed and repositioned in near-Earth space. The planet didn't roar, it prepared without sound. Without chaos, just perfect, calculated reawakening. In deep space, empires across the galaxy panicked. They had maps. They had archives. They knew. Earth once had power, but they didn't know this. That Earth had planned for this moment, and the countdown was not to destruction. It was to re-entry. Day 5. A hidden observatory station orbiting. Pluto picked up a gravitational anomaly. Something massive was rising from Earth's core. The signal was faint, but growing. Stronger, they tried to get closer. They never reported again. Day 6. The moon changed from its surface. Ancient satellites disguised as craters opened their hatches from inside. Silent objects rose, long black rods, featureless. Cold, they floated above the moon, then vanished. All at once. No signal, no trail. 1 hour later, defense systems across 5 sectors suffered instant shutdowns, not explosions. Datic Fava and empires screamed sabotage. Their fleets fell blind. Their networks dropped. Their command chains dissolved, and Earth never said a word. Day 7. Amperes. Scientists from the Varn Coalition made a discovery using ancient tech from a forgotten era. She decoded a fragment of Echo's architecture. She found one phrase. System Echo recognizes signal breach. Adjusting timeline. Human resurrection. Accelerated. She ran out of her lab, screaming, "They're waking up faster." Across Earth, deep under every continent, war forms began to rise. Some walked on 4 legs, others on none. Towering. Machines the size of mountains. Energy shields that pulsed like hearts. Systems designed not for defense but domination. They had no names, only code names. Argus, Stratus, Veil, Nightwalker. Machines built by humans, run by humans, for one reason. If ever the galaxy forgot, they would remind it in the human vaults. Awakening continued. One soldier designation, H47A, opened his eyes. He was alone in a silent chamber, blinking at the soft blue lights. Data streamed into his brain. His orders were clear. No emotion, no memory, only purpose. He whispered, "Protocol Echo. Execute return." Day 13. The stars near Earth began to shift. Not visibly, not physically. Digitally, navigation systems across the galaxy stopped accepting Sol's coordinates as if Earth was being erased from reality. Any ship that tried to force a course was redirected, or shut down. Protocol Echo wasn't hiding Earth. It was disconnecting it, making Sol its own space, untouchable, unreachable, sovereign. Day 16. One desperate empire. The Huracan Dominion tried to stop it. They sent a missile swarm from a distance warheads, powerful enough to fracture moons they expected. Resistance. They saw nothing, until their screens blinked, then went black. Their fleet lost contact with the missiles. Then the fleet lost contact with itself, and then it was only static. A merchant ship passing nearby recorded something unusual. In the space where the fleet had once been, they saw nothing but light. Not a blast, not fire, just light soft, golden, endless, as if space had decided to forget what existed there. And Protocol Echo remembered everything. Day 20. The countdown was now visible in the sky above. Earth projectors embedded in the upper atmosphere displayed the timer in glowing red letters. Every city ruin. Every mountain, every ocean. 9 days, 3 hours, 12 minutes. Ow. Across the sleeping planet, the message echoed, "Initiate Phase 2, transmission." A pulse spread from Earth's core. It moved through the oceans into orbit, into deep space. And every species with a receiver heard the same voice. Not human, not machine, but both. "This is Earth. Our silence was peace. You mistook it for weakness. Now hear us clearly. We return not to conquer, but to remind." Day 2. For the council begged Elias for a solution. He simply said, "You had your warning. You sent the fleet. You ignored the silence. Now, Earth doesn't need to strike. Strike yourselves trying to understand what you woke." Day 27. Humans, real humans, merged from the second. Underground vaults, they were different. Their bodies enhanced, minds faster, not grown, but perfected. Each one stepped into machines built just for them, armors that shaped themselves, ships that knew their thoughts, weapons that responded before commands were given, not an army. A message. Day 30. Countdown complete. The sky above Earth flashed once, a single pulse of white. No explosion, no fire, just light. And every AI across the galaxy froze. Every hyperlane shut. Every empire's star map displayed the same. New system tag. Active. Sol Primaris Protocol. Echo online. Then came the final transmission. "We are the children of Earth. End. We have not forgotten." Stars blinked. The silence returned. But this time, it wasn't peaceful. It was the silence before the response. The voice was gone, but its echo still lived. In every corner of the galaxy, fleets refused to move. Colonies lost contact. For the first time in 500 years, the stars felt cold. 3 days after the countdown ended, in the dark edges of space, past the old war zones, past even the forgotten planets, something began to wake. It wasn't human. It wasn't alien. It was older. It remembered Earth for silence, and it hated what was returning. In the dead sector of Zenthernine, a long forgotten satellite came alive. Its metal was rusted. Its memory banks corrupted. But one signal, Earth's final transmission, somehow reached it, and that was enough. Deep below the dead world, something stirred. A voice whispered, not in words, but in warnings. It traveled through systems, through dust and dead signals, reaching one place that should never have heard it. The vault of the forgotten. Inside that vault was a name. Long erased, banished, buried. A name that once stood above all others. The Devous. They weren't a species. They weren't machines. They were what came after war. What Earth had fought last, before it disappeared. What the galaxy had assumed was extinct, but they weren't gone. They were sleeping. And now, we're listening. The first signs came quietly. A small transport vanished near the Trellin Rift. A black sun appeared in the star logs of a mining vessel. A child in the Morkai system drew Earth's symbol, even though no one had ever shown her. And in the farthest reaches, an abandoned beacon blinked once. Then again, then faster, until its core burst. Not from damage, from fear. The Galactic Council finally acted. Ships were scrambled. Old weapons brought online. Warnings broadcasted across every system, but none of it mattered, because Earth had not attacked. And that scared them more. In a hidden chamber aboard a derelict station, a group of archivists decoded a recovered Earth file. It was old, dust-covered, fragmented, but it held a single phrase that chilled their blood. Echo protocol is only the beginning. If voice protocol ever activates, do not respond, do not run, do not listen. Too late, at the edge of the void, a message appeared. No known language, no source, just vibration, like a whisper between galaxies and ships that heard it. Working, not just their engines, their crews. Frozen, silent, eyes wide open. No life signs, no cause of death. As if something had spoken through the vacuum itself and their minds couldn't survive it. Meanwhile, Earth remained quiet, orbiting, peacefully. No ships launched, no invasions begun, and yet its presence was felt everywhere. One trade baron said it best: Earth didn't return to talk, it returned to listen. But what it heard wasn't from this galaxy. In the hidden zones of the void, a signal pushed back. It mimicked Earth's own. Almost human, almost perfect, but not. A twisted copy of the echo, and then it spoke. We remember you, Earth. We remember your fire. We remember your screams. You locked us away. You buried us. But now, you breathe again. So shall we? And just like that, the stars screamed. Planets began experiencing blackouts. Not electrical, but spatial. Entire regions of space blinked out, gone, not exploded, not moved, just missing. And every time it happened, the same shape was reported by survivors: a black ring. Hovering silently, growing, and inside the ring voices, not shouting, not roaring, but weeping. The council called for help. From Earth, from the awakened. Human systems, but no reply came. Until the very last moment. A single word, spoken across all frequencies, all languages, all minds. Observed, not a threat. Just a confirmation Earth had heard them and was watching. On the 7th day after the countdown, something appeared in the Kurlock system. A ship, no ID, no heat, no signal, just metal black, smooth, silent, human design. But not of this age, and inside it. One human, no rank, no name, no memory. He stood at the center of the control chamber. Eyes closed, then opened them and spoke. Voice protocol activated. The ship didn't move, the galaxy did, all across known space. Gravitational anomalies began pulling systems inward. Nothing violent, just subtle redirection. Like the entire galaxy was being reorganized around Earth. Some called it madness, some called it prophecy. But those who knew, understood. Humanity wasn't claiming the stars, it was preparing for something else to come through, something they had fought once and imprisoned. A team of researchers discovered Earth's lost transmission logs from 2,000 years ago. One stood out. It wasn't military, it wasn't coded. Just a message from a scientist named Dr. Anya Creel. We've built the wall, not to keep us in, but to keep them out. If it ever falls and we do not return, let silence be our legacy, not defeat. But silence was broken now, and Earth had returned. So what had broken the wall? Or near the galactic rim, the black? Rings opened. A lightless figure stepped through, humanoid, tall eyes, like collapsed stars, not alive, not machine. But something between. It looked towards Soul. It smiled, and behind it, millions followed. Not with ships, not with weapons, with voices. Ready to speak, ready to consume, and Earth still didn't speak, didn't attack, didn't panic. It simply began deploying ships. One by one, no weapons. No crew, just names, painted on their sides. The memory, the silence, the remnant, the first flame, and finally, the answer every empire watched in terror, but they didn't see warships. They saw something else. Each human ship moved between dimensions, not across space, but through memory, appearing where they'd once fought, where they'd once bled. Earth was remembering. Memory. It was awakening something ancient within itself. Then, on the 10th day, every system received the same sound. A whisper, soft, gentle, human, but not from Earth. It was a child's voice. They're coming back, but not all of them are us anymore. Suddenly, even the bravest species began to pray, because Earth's war was never with them. It was with what lay beyond the stars, and now that ancient enemy had returned, and the only thing standing in its path was a race that had once died, fighting it. The sky burned white, not from fire, but from memory. The stars weren't exploding, they were remembering, and the first. Fire was returning. 12 days since countdown ended, the galaxy was no longer silent. But it wasn't alive either. Systems fell. Without battle, worlds turned to ash without flame. And ancient empires surrendered to an enemy they couldn't see. Because the Devourers didn't fight like an army. They unraveled. They sang into minds, into matter, into memory itself, and made existence forget it ever lived. In the middle of this horror, Earth finally moved, not with fleets, not with threats, but with one ship. Its black spear, long, silent, older than every race in the galaxy. Its name glowed faintly and forgotten. Earth-Tongue:KRE, the first fire. The last weapon ever built by the true humans, and now it had awoken. The Council tried to hail it, tried to understand it, tried to warn it, but Kreia didn't respond. It didn't speak. It remembered. And in remembering, it reshaped the battlefield. The Korthon fleet minus 317 battleships wiped in 1 second. Not from missiles, but from a sound. A soft human hum. Like a lullaby. Except it wasn't a song. It was a code. Written during the final days of the Human Devourer War. A frequency that untangled matter from soul. Those who heard it ceased. Not dead. Not alive. Unwritten. The Devourers tried to breach Kreia. They swarmed the ship. Voices twisted. Forms shifting. But Kreia's hull wasn't made of metal. It was made of what humans had once been. Not flesh. Not steel. But something. The galaxy had no word for soul-tech, and soul could not be consumed. Only awakened. Aboard the Kreia stood one figure. Not a soldier. Not a god. Just a woman. Old, scarred, half machine, half light. Her name. Forgotten to the universe. But Kreia knew her and called her the First Flame. She opened her eyes and the void screamed. From every part of the ship, ancient systems came. Online, not weapons, memories, recorded pain. Echoed sacrifice. Final stands. Last breaths, and each one became a weapon. A cannon of grief, torpedo of rage, a shield of hope. Humanity's greatest gift wasn't war. It was what it left behind in war. The Devourers struck, but their forms shattered against Kreia's sorrow. They weren't just being attacked, they were being understood. And in that understanding, they broke. Because for the first time, they felt the cost of their own hunger. What they had erased, what they had stolen, what Earth had died to protect. And they screamed. The galaxy watched in silence, as devourer by devourer collapsed, as stars began to shine again, as ships once lost reappeared, not dead, but changed. Rescued by Earth's memory fields, the woman on Kreia whispered the final command, "Let there be fire," and Kreia obeyed. It didn't burn stars, it didn't destroy space, it illuminated truth. For one moment, the galaxy remembered everything. Every act of kindness, every sacrifice, every name lost in war, and that light was enough. The Devourers vanished, not killed, but undone. Their existence rewound. Until they were nothing more than a shadow and myth, and in their place,
silence.
True silence. Peace. Kreia did not return to Earth. It drifted toward the edge of space. Toward the unknown, its job complete, its flame fading. But before it disappeared, the woman said one last thing. We were never meant to conquer, only to survive. But if survival means remembering who we are, then let the stars burn with our name. The ship vanished, but her voice remained now across every world. In every corner of the galaxy, children speak Earth's name with reverence, not fear, because they know now humanity never left. It became the fire that watches, that waits, and if darkness ever returns, so will Earth.